Damn, I mean, we got away with one right there. And, I mean, what do you want to talk about first there? You want to talk about the game? You want to talk about Richardson? I guess we'll touch on Richardson first, because all in all, there's really not much to say, right? To me, I mean, I thought he looked fine basically from the moment he was going to the locker room, right? And he came out, had his helmet on at some point, looked ready to come back into the game, and I guess just up 17-0. The Colts said, you know what? This is going to be precautionary. Let's have him watch. We could win this game regardless. Now, albeit it got a little bit closer than we wanted it to, but the Colts, I guess, right, or at least proven to be right, in that judgment call at that point. No injury report yet, obviously. We're going to have to wait to see the week of practice, but it seems, based off of what I saw on the sideline, take a deep breath, right, with Anthony Richardson. Looks like we'll be fine going into next week with him, but we'll have to see how that progresses. That is why you have Joe Flacco, though, a game like that, right? At this point, I mean, he's probably a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson, and as I'm watching the end of that game, I'm not sure. Now, you don't know how the game would have played out differently, of course, up to that point, but the end of that game, by the time it was the fourth quarter and the way everything played out, I'm not sure that we win that game with Anthony Richardson at quarterback, so you take that as you may. Listen, with Joe Flacco, sure, maybe the running game a little bit less efficient because you don't have the threat of Anthony Richardson, but whatever you lose on the ground, you probably make up for with efficiency in the passing game. And, ultimately, Jonathan Taylor, over the course of 4 quarters, is going to get the job done more often than not. So really not too shabby from the Indianapolis Colts overall. Now 2-2 and have erased a disastrous start to the season. Kind of a hard reset for the Indianapolis Colts right now. And I would honestly, as much as I want to be happy about the team, I can't help but find myself in a position where I want to scold some of the fan base. I mean, you can only hope that Colts fans take a game like this as a lesson. I mean, how many times, how many seasons do you need to watch to understand and know that you can't just bug out and come to major conclusions every single week, because you're just going to end up looking foolish at some point. Ultimately, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and there's going to be ups and downs. And of course, we talk about every single week, but also, you have to kind of have a little bit of perspective as you look week to week here, right? As far as Anthony Richardson goes, just to touch on him one more time before we talk about the rest of the game, I thought he looked pretty good for the most part. Of course, a limited sample size, that quick out is really giving him a problem, right? Just sailed one to Michael Pittman Jr. on the out. They give him that easy throw consistently. He consistently misses it, but there was a few other throws that I was pretty happy with. He seems to be a much better thrower in between the hashes than he is outside the hashes. Don't know why that is exactly, but just an observation from me. On the defensive side of the ball, impressive showing from this defense in the early part of this game before they took their foot off the gas. So I do have some mixed feelings about the performance on the defensive side overall, but I do think I feel good about it, generally speaking. I mean, the Colts missing Kenny Moore, missing Kwity Paye, missing Ryan Kelly, losing Anthony Richardson early in that game, and we come out of it with a victory and get the job done. So, I mean, you can't complain too much, right? How upset can you possibly be coming out of that game? Of course, there's positives, negatives, all that type of stuff. We'll go over some of those random talking points and players that we want to celebrate before ultimately moving on into the week and then into week 5. But before we do, you know what it is? Up. My name is Justin. This right here is the Ride the Bench Colts podcast. As always, ask everyone enjoying the show, go ahead, shoot it a like. It's going to help me get out to as many Colts fans as humanly possible. Of course, if you have not subscribed, you keep coming back, want to be a part of the journey. We're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers over here on the YouTube channel. Audio listeners, 5-star review. Let the people know how much you like the show. But of course, let's just be a better, smarter Colts fan base. That's what we do over here. All Colts, nothing but the Colts, all week, every week. You don't get anything else. People who like the Hoosiers, people who like Indiana football, sorry, not the spot. This right here is Colts football and Colts football only. And let's start on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, Taylor Bortolini, right? Let's start right there. I mean, no Ryan Kelly. This kid comes in pretty damn good. I mean, pretty damn good playing center. He's drafted as a guard, I'm pretty sure, like 95% sure off the top of my head. And listen, to some degree, the positions on the line are interchangeable, but it doesn't just mean that it's a shoo-in, that if you could play one position, you could play them all. I mean, that first drive, they just ran it right behind them and were excellent. I mean, Bortolini, really, really impressive the way he was able to come in and play in place of Ryan Kelly. He deserves a shout out. Josh Downs. This is why I didn't drop him from my team in fantasy, right? He's still sitting on my bench, but what a piece of this offense he is. And again, just the skill set he brings, it's one of one for the Indianapolis Colts. He's the only guy on this team that can do what he does. To some degree, I guess a similar role to Michael Pittman Jr. in the sense that he's a bit of a chain mover, but Michael Pittman Jr. a bit bigger, a bit more of a 50-50 ball type of guy, although he separates. Josh Downs, small, quick, right? In the slot, just kind of a mismatch in there. And he was excellent in this game. Really, really exciting to see Josh Downs be such a productive piece of this offense. Speak of Michael Pittman, very nice bounce back from him. Pretty much expected that in this one. Again, the start of the season, you had the Colts versus some of the elite corners in football. The kid Joey Porter, very, very good corner, right? There's nothing wrong with Joey Porter at corner for the Steelers, but ultimately he's not Stingley. He's not Jair Alexander, right? He's not Jalen Johnson. He's not those dudes. And ultimately Pittman comes out here, does a good job of, just doing everything you want him to do, right? Joe Flacco, that he is something else at his age, huh? What is he, 40 years old? Out there just slinging the rock. You got to love what he brings to the table. Trey Sermon, huh? Like what he brought, way to step in when he needed to for Jonathan Taylor. I wouldn't say we didn't miss a beat because Jonathan Taylor is just a special, special running back. Obviously got to keep tabs on his ankle and that injury that we saw there. But again, seems okay, but it's happened so late in the game that, he just doesn't come back in. Trey Sermon, I thought, did a good job in relief. If we want to talk about some of the negatives in terms of us on the offensive side of the ball, and I'm going to go special teams too, because it involves us scoring points, right? A shocking call by Shane Steichen to run Anthony Richardson following him leaving quickly with the hip to immediately call a read option. And for him to tuck it, it's a shocking call. What do you want me to tell you? It's a completely shocking call. But ultimately it played out how it played out. Matt Gay, listen, I like to be rational. I don't like to bug out or anything like that. But, that guy gives me agita. That every time he comes out, I've never seen a guy pull every single kick to the left. He just cannot get the kick down the middle. And if it goes in, great. But I feel like he misses a bunch. I don't have any numbers in front of me. But, man, I'm not saying cut him or anything like that. But, the guy just, makes me anxious. How else can I put it? The guy makes me anxious. And, and what are you going to do? Say, oh, that was a bad signing and then bug out at Ballard? The dude was a 90% field goal kicker for 2 straight years, I believe, with the Rams. And he comes here and all of a sudden he keeps hooking it to the right. Listen, early in his career with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he did have some accuracy issues before ultimately working all of that out with the Rams. And then ultimately, again, becoming a Colt. I don't know. I don't know what to say about him other than the fact that he makes me a little bit nervous. And, that game doesn't even technically have to be as close as it is if he's able to hit that one field goal that he hooks to the left, right? But whatever. Let's transition to the defensive side of the ball. And the linebackers, excellent football. Love how they have responded, right? Everyone talking about, these guys were doing podcasts and not working hard over the offseason off of 2 games. Again, that was a little premature, but ultimately, when you are guys like Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed, who to some degree coming into this season have not only become fan favorites, but also have become kind of front-facing players in this organization, guys that are out there in the media, you subject yourself to that type of criticism when you come out and start the season playing poorly like they did. But again, I thought much of the rhetoric that I saw from fans online, from content creators online, saying like, yeah, these guys are playing like the rounds they were drafted in. I thought that was a little bit of a low blow early in the season, all things considered. Up to that point, they were drafted where they were drafted, and we had grown to love them, right? So then when they start to play bad a little bit, you can't just turn it around and say, oh, he's playing like a 7th rounder. He's playing like a 5th rounder. I thought that was kind of shitty by the fan base. But after all, that's what we do, right? What else is new from the Colts fans and all that type of stuff? Great football from the linebackers. Just flying around. Really, the defense, the way they started off this game, it almost looked like they were the Steelers' defense, and the Steelers' defense was the Colts' defense, which was pretty cool to see, kind of that juxtaposition, that flip around, right? Good football from them. This kid Womack that we drafted, or rather snagged from the 49ers practice squad, pretty impressive stuff coming in here in this game. He wasn't locked down or anything like that, but he came out there, did what he had to do. Nick Cross, another guy. I find myself at this point every single week really, really impressed with Nick Cross on the defensive side of the ball. He just flies around and then having him at strong safety and kind of having him more and like instead of that high safety, him coming down into the box a little bit more, the way he flies around. I mean, they let him play free. And I'm not talking about free safety. I'm talking about with freedom, right? And just as a tackler, very, very impressive. I just am really, really becoming a fan of Nick Cross. I'd like to believe a lot of you guys are too. Speak of guys in the secondary that I like, Jalen Jones. I'll tell you what. I have never seen a guy consistently get beat with like the tightest coverage. Like he, for whatever reason, will be all over a guy and they just get the catch on him. I don't know if it's a case of bad luck or if it's something he's doing wrong. Listen, I'm not like a corner. You know what I'm saying? That of all the positions I could play, that's like the last one, right? So I'm not going to sit here and try to critique the X's and O's and the fundamentals of that. But man, sometimes I'm just looking, you guys get the same feel? Like you're looking, you're like, Jalen Jones is all over this guy. Meanwhile, they end up coming down with it anyway. But I mean, hey, you know, that's really all I actually have to say about Jalen Jones. I didn't think he was bad in the game by any means. I just think, I mean, I don't know how you stop that from happening. I have no clue. I guess you just have to play better. And that is what it is. I wish I could provide you with something a little bit more insightful. Kind of want to zoom out a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. Gus Bradley, as we continue to talk about, another week of him mixing it up really well. We're starting to see him mixing the blitz quite a bit on third down and just give a couple of different looks, particularly when you have a guy like Justin Fields, who, again, he's exactly who I thought he was. That Steelers offense isn't all that impressive, right? Which you can say and negate the defensive performance to some degree. But Gus Bradley, much like a lot of the guys on defense, kind of responding well to some of the outrage from the fan base early in the season. That being said, it's against two subpar offenses in the Bears and the Steelers, so we got to keep it down the middle. I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's something it's not. So we're going to see how this thing progresses, but you got to be happy with the defense. And finally, did anyone play my parlay? Because that thing hit in like the second quarter, not too shabby. I mean, listen, I'm not saying that I'm a genius. I'm not saying that I'm the best bettor of all time. But if we counted today's Colts game and today's Colts game only, I have never once missed a bet. So pretty good stuff. Other than that, that's pretty much the whole reaction to the game. I mean, I'm sure I missed something. But, you know, I am recording this during the 4 o'clock games, and I want to get back to watching the damn things. I'm a football fan just as much as I am a Colts fan. Wanted to make sure I got to talk to you guys before the day's end. So without further ado, that was an episode. My name is Justin. This right here was the Ride on the Bench Colts podcast. As always, like, subscribe, all that shit. But most importantly, go Colts.